All right, peace and much love. Zin Uru here. Welcome to the latest installment of Message from the Minista. This week's message from the Minista is going to be environmental discernment. Environmental discernment. It sounds so much more menacing than the topic actually is. This week we want to talk about discernment in our environment and in different environments that we find ourselves in. And as we speak about discernment, we'll see that discernment, there's a certain sight that comes with discernment. There's a certain overstanding that comes to discernment. We're going to see how important discernment is and think of practical ways that we can empower our discernment in our day-to-day living. This is actually building off the lesson last week. If you remember, we talked and we read from Perform Listening. And in Perform Listening, one of the key points of Perform Listening in the Divine Performance in the Gospel of Hip Hop, written by the teacher KRS-One, one of the things that we learned in Perform Listening was that to learn to pay attention to that still small voice within. For the spirit, those on the spiritual path, to pay attention to that still small voice within, because it's usually that still small voice within us that's the older, wiser self, and it's the younger, more immature self that starts doubting the older, wiser self. And so, this is something that it takes practice to hone in on. It takes, it takes trial and error to hone in on listening to the still small voice in our head. For example, I use this one a lot, but it's such a good one, is like you see the umbrella. You think, I don't need that umbrella. And so you don't grab it on your way to the car. And then, you're out and about and it starts raining and you could have used that umbrella, and you're like, oh man, I knew I should have grabbed that umbrella. Something told me to grab that umbrella. So then the next time something tells you to get that umbrella, you look at it, you grab it without hesitation, because you learn to listen to that still small voice within us. That's what we want to do. We want to listen to that still small voice within us. And that still small voice gets into intuition. That still small voice gets into the seventh sense, which is even beyond intuition. That still small voice gets into our gut instinct. What is our heart saying? What is our intellect saying about the situation? What is our discernment about that situation? Now, environmental discernment would be that we find ourselves in these different environments in life, and we've got to use certain discernment, whether it's a mental environment, whether it's a physical environment, a spiritual environment, to navigate ourselves, healthy, wealthy, and wise through that process while we're going through going through Earth, really, going through our three-dimensional environment. So speaking of the three-dimensional environment, I want to welcome you all here. Thank you for being here. I see each and every one of you, and those who I see here every week, welcome back, welcome back. And those new faces too, welcome each and every one of you, because as we say every week, there is no such thing as time and space. It is just part of this three-dimensional reality we're experiencing as spiritual beings, having this three-dimensional so-called human being experience with this water body that we are renting for a while, that we are privileged to have, that we are the caretakers, the stewards of this water body. And this water body, we are caretakers and stewards of this earth. But in the spirit, with no time and no space, we are all here together in one space, one place, right here, right now. And no matter how forward in the future you're watching this, or where you're at on earth right now while you're watching this, we are indeed together sharing this same space. And so in that spirit, as we're talking about, environmental discernment being a certain sight, what I want to bring first and foremost into the equation here, or into the lesson here, is the three natures of hip hop, and specifically hip hop as one word, hip hop as consciousness as one word. I'll put it up here. Hip hop spelled like this: capital H, lowercase I, lowercase p, lowercase h, lowercase o, lowercase p. Hip hop as consciousness. And just to keep us always refreshed, and for those new listeners, so you can see where we're coming from with here, where the foundation of what this teaching is about this week, let's put this up here on the screen right now, and we'll take a look at the three natures of hip hop in the Gospel of Hip Hop, written by the teacher KRS-One for the temple of hip hop. Now, I would like you to just notice here these three natures as we're talking. We're really going to be focused on the first nature, specifically this discussion. But this first nature and the discernment of our intellectual abilities and the ability to discern in our environment, that sight is going to carry into the second nature there. Hip hop spelled as two words, capital H, lowercase I, lowercase p, capital H, lowercase o, lowercase p. That's the culture, that's the elements, that's where we're going to be focusing this sight going into those environments as an MC, as a graffiti artist, as whoever you are, an entrepreneur, a student, a teacher, a prophet, whatever it is that you're going into that hip hop environment, that outer environment in. You're going to want to have your keen sight aware, and of course in that environment too, to have little h, little I, little p dash, little h, little o, little p. It's always good to carry your $10 item with you. What is it that you have for sale wherever you go, especially if you're going to concerts? Do you have a little hustle, some kind of a business cards or even flyers you can leave behind to point towards your business, whether it's a jewelry business, a clothing business, whether it's your music, whatever it is that you can just, drop 20 flyers off at a concert you go to, like a little glossy flyer, a 5x8 flyer to advertise yourself. That would be the little HIP dash little HOP. Let's take a look. We're looking at these definitions already while I'm talking, but let's just read them too. Hip hop, capital H, lowercase I, lowercase p, lowercase h, lowercase o, lowercase p. And that equals our unique spirit, our unique collective consciousness, the creative force behind hip-hop's elements. Hip-hop is the name of our lifestyle and collective consciousness. See this? Our unique collective consciousness, the creative force behind hip-hop. This is the hip-hop sight. This is the sight that brings to life these elements. So we'll look at capital H, lowercase I, lowercase p, space, capital H, lowercase o, lowercase p. And that is the creation and development of breaking, MCing, graffiti art, DJing, beatboxing, street fashion, street language, street knowledge, and street entrepreneurialism. It is what we call ourselves and our activity in the world. Hip hop is the name of our culture. And the third nature of hip hop, lowercase h, lowercase I, lowercase p, dash, lowercase h, lowercase o, lowercase p. That is rap music product and those things and events associated with rap music entertainment. Hip hop is a music genre. So like I said, we're going to be really focused on the first nature of hip hop. We call these the three natures of hip hop. And the first nature being hip hop as consciousness. That hip hop sight, this is the awareness, this is the sight, this is the collective consciousness, because while we're bringing forward our MCing, while we're bringing forward our art, while we're bringing forward our philosophies, our knowledge, whatever it is that we're bringing forward into this outer environment, the reason it's part of the collective consciousness is because our collective consciousness, beyond just beyond just the consciousness within us, it's also other people's consciousness looking at what we're producing in the culture. You see what I'm saying? Like the book, The Gospel of Hip Hop, that went from being hip hop as consciousness in the teacher's mind to him writing it down, and then this coming out, into the culture. And others witnessing this came from the collective consciousness to where we can all see this in the collective consciousness now. This is in the collective consciousness, but it's a book form. Now I don't want to reduce the gospel of hip hop to a product in that way, but it could very well, I don't have a CD on here, but it should be a CD is what I'm saying. You're bringing a CD out into the culture. Our consciousness has the sight. We work on the sight, we master our craft, we make a CD. That's us entering into the culture or into the environment. Part of that mastering the craft is we've got to find beat producers, DJs, we got to find a place to grab the mic, whatever it is in the culture, then we bring that product into the culture, but that's the site. Now, to be discerning, we got to know, like, what are people actually going to want to buy in our environment? What do we have to offer in our environment? If it could be a product or it could be a service. But either way, it's very wise to become, what's the good word? I'm looking for a word here. Merchants. It's very wise to become merchants in the world. And having a certain skill set or something that people, you can bring healing to people. If you have a certain way of guided meditation, there's all kinds of healing modalities out there. You could teach Tai Chi classes. You could be a herbalist. You could get certified to give people tinctures. You could be an author and you have your books or pamphlets that you're handing out. Whatever it is that is you, that you have that part of you that becomes that product that is for sale, the discerning part of the environment is being on top of it, so you have and you're offering something that's actually in demand or that's actually useful. And this is just different than purpose even. You feel me? Like, this is what brings the income in. This is the street entrepreneurial lesson there. And I didn't really plan on spilling over into that, but that's what it is, environmental discernment. Part of discernment is knowing what the audience wants. The artists who stay relevant to their audience, they know what their audience is looking for. They know what their audience wants. They use discernment. So, really, all of life, when we think of it from that perspective, all of life is art. All of it is art. I think about that the way that art brings us together, the way that art created hip-hop. I mean, hip-hop, the site created the art, but the art created the culture. The art is the culture. It's like it's the same thing. Like the art, the artist, the culture, it's all the same being. It's the hip-hop. Like what you create that comes out of you, your art, the art that is you, the heart that is you, the art that comes from us, we are that art. We are the creation and the creator. And see, this is where it's so magnificent when we look at God, the Almighty God, God the Father. When we look at God, God the Mother, God the parent, God beyond any kind of like giving God a gender, God the infinite being of all that is, the infinite creator, God. When we look at God, God is both the creator and the created happening at the same time. In a more simple way, we are the observer and what is being observed. I am also this camera that is being observed. I observe this camera. I observe the people in this room. We are part of the same being in that way. So as we're navigating through this environment and we know these certain things, how do we safely navigate through an environment? How do we get from point A to point B where our purpose lies or where, the promised land is? How do we navigate through that? Well, that's where discernment comes in. That's where discernment comes in. And I want to read the definition of discernment pretty quick here. And just keep in mind, too, that there's a deeper overstanding. I'm going to read from Perform Overstanding from the Gospel of Hip Hop as well. And we're going to see that discernment, there's a site of discernment that comes in. And discernment works as this umbrella that all these other things have to be in alignment for discernment to happen. And what I think is great is that, they talk in I believe it's the book of James in the Holy Bible. The book of James talks about there's two kinds of wisdom. And I remember as a kid, just contemplate what are the two kinds of wisdom. And one is the learned wisdom, the wisdom that we gained from making mistakes, right? We get wisdom. When we make a mistake, if we learn from that mistake, we become wise. We have an experience. We don't just have the knowledge of the event. We actually have the experience of the event. And if we're wise, the event creates that experience. Or wisdom can also come from somebody else saying, yo, this is my experience with this. You would be wise to stay away from that. And so there's the second way that wisdom comes. Other people's mistakes, we can turn other people's mistakes into wisdom too. But where life really gets lived, because it's one thing to be wise, but when we put our wisdom to actual use, we learn from the mistake and then we create something better without the mistake, that's where overstanding comes in. Now we're overstood. Now we have an overstanding of this. We stand over the situation now. Having been down, maybe been knocked down, got ourselves back up. We had the knowledge, right? We say, if I go and do that, okay, I'm going to try that. Somebody told me, I learned this from a book. I was inspired. I got some knowledge for this. I put it to use. Boom, I got knocked down. Uh-oh, what did I do wrong? Oh, I should have zigged when I zagged. I should have zigged when I should have zagged. Okay, next time, instead of zigging, I'm going to zag. And so we pick ourselves up. There's the wisdom. And then we go right back towards what that purpose is that we were working for. And then when we're supposed to zig, we zag. And all of a sudden, we gain from that wisdom, but that gaining from the wisdom, that actual action, that's the overstanding in and of itself. So, these last few weeks, we did perform study and perform listening. Okay, this week is perform overstanding. I'm not doing I'm not going through the 18 principles of the divine performance. I'm not going through the divine performance in order for a specific reason, because these lessons are kind of lending themselves to the next step. And this is where that hip hop consciousness site is. Now, I will put a disclaimer out there. Starting on January 1st, we're going to be doing what's called the 21-day Divine Performance Challenge, where we're going to I'm going to do my my annual New Year's Eve guided meditation. And, and then starting the next day on January 1st, we will be doing a 21-day Divine Performance Challenge where there's a certain way to read the Divine Performance in order and say the affirmation at the beginning of the divine performance for 21 days while studying the divine performance. That just gives a nice little boost, a nice little push in the right direction, some wind in the sails, some fuel in the car as we head into the new year. And it's something that a number of us have been doing for a good solid 5 years. And I want to say it started being initiated like 7 years ago. Well, at least the guided meditation did. And then, 5 years ago, we started doing this, a few of us did. I just like to put it out there to the public. So if you don't have your copy of the Gospel of Hip Hop, you need to get that because we're not going to be doing this on video. It's going to be something that each of us who is doing the 21-day Divine Performance Challenge, what that is that's up to the individual, and only the individual knows. The only test is what's going to happen in your life after the 21-day Divine Performance Challenge. So I say that to say we are going to be going through it at the beginning of the year in order. But right now, this is the way that the Gospel of Hip Hop works. It's a book that's not designed that you just read it once, you put it down, you learn the knowledge and move on. It's a book that you can go back and visit certain lessons when they're needed in life. And so it's a living book, and I approach most sacred texts as living books, that they're not read front to back, although the Bible, the Gospel of Hip Hop, they're designed to be read front to back. Bhagavad Gita front to back, or really back to front, but that's a whole other lesson. But the point being is that these books, there's a life to the sacred text. There's a livingness to the sacred text, that there's certain lessons that you can go to that we need in our lives for that day and for that time. That's why I like to put these out week to week. I don't know that this lesson is for whoever hears this on Monday. God willing it is. But this lesson right here could be for somebody 25 years from now, looking back, being like, what was this crazy guy Zin Uru doing back in 2021? And this is what I was doing in 2021. Making these videos for the future, making these videos for the present, making these videos for the past. But as we're using our environmental discernment, realize that it's something that you already do. It's something we are already doing on our day-to-day living. And, these are like survival skills when it comes to discernment. And I do want to put a little deeper part on this discernment, because what this is going to say is that we really have to have a discerning eye and for when we are being lied to, when we are being ripped off, when we are being hustled. That's what the mainstream media is doing. That's what the government's doing. They're lying, cheating, stealing, and hustling. And what they're doing is they're telling everybody else in that environment, which say like the United States, just as a microcosm, when the government is corrupt, the people are told it's okay to be corrupt. So people are going to be corrupt in your outer environment. The government lies all the time. They're telling the people, this is literally what they're doing, and they're doing it on purpose. Like people be like, why is the government lying all the time? Because they want the population lying all the time. Why is the government stealing all the time? Because they want the population stealing all the time. Why is the government so abusive? Because the government wants the population abusing one another. As long as people follow the example of the government, then the people are always going to be in disarray, always going to be lost, always going to be confused, and therefore easily governed. Do you know how easy it is to govern the United States of America with the way that people just go to the media and then just believe that, and then that becomes their reality? They just believe these talking heads, these guys that are just up there chirping, this mockingbird media chirping, and it actually becomes the reality that like most of us live within every day. Well, let me tell you something. There's a different reality out there, and that's the reality that we really have to have our sight discerning on. We have to have our spiritual discernment wide awake and aware of where we actually are in this place, this environment that we actually live in called earth. And then this environment that we live in called earth, which takes the most ultimate discernment, for there's a discerning spirit. As John Trudell says, we live in the place where spirits get eaten. That's something that a lot of people don't find very comfortable, but that's something that like discomfort is a asset in life. I think people walk away from discomfort. They get afraid of discomfort, and so the promise of hell is comfort. Come do this day in and day out, get this little measly paycheck and die. Live your life in abject comfort. It's not, just live a life in abject comfort and then die. And create some more kids to live in abject comfort so the top, whoever on the pyramid scale can do whatever they're doing. But that reality right there, there's a discerning eye that sees beyond. A discerning I am that sees beyond that reality and can actually see the true reality of where we are here on earth. And this earth produces that reality, this environment, this environment, this environment, this environment, these other environments. I realized that the same disciplines that I needed when we were traveling up and down the West Coast were the same disciplines when I was traveling up and down the East Coast. And those same disciplines were the same disciplines traveling up all across Canada. And then those same disciplines were the same disciplines used going through all of Europe. This is where it comes really handy to have a certain sight, have a certain discipline, have a certain understanding, which is experience in life, that gives the sight a certain discernment to navigate through one's environment. And I feel you all out there like Zin just dropped the jewel, taking the United States of America all the way back to ancient Kemet. I know y'all are feeling that. I was inspired by watching Jordan Maxwell really getting into it and explaining that this week. And it's been something that to me is important, especially for the future, to know that, yes, right now the mainstream media is attacking something ancient, an ancient intelligence, an ancient understanding, an ancient overstanding, an ancient way of being, our original human way of being, all the way back to Thoth, There's a certain way that humanity has been created, and we are to be the living light of our world when we're navigating our environment. But while we're going through our environment, realize that the light, also when you're shining your light, the matrix itself sees you. It's like the movie Inception. Now, if you've ever seen the movie Inception or you haven't seen the movie Inception, check it out. Because there's this moment in Inception where the lead character, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, he's teaching a young female student, how to live. They're living in this dream world. They're able to insert themselves into this dream world. And she was in his mind, in his dream world. And so while they were mapping, or he was in hers, I don't remember that part. But the point is, when you're in when they started being aware that they were awake in this dream world, and they started acting in ways that the subconscious wouldn't understand, the subconscious would turn on itself and turn on the people who are walking through this dream world. I want to explain it even better. You got to see the movie. And then when you see the movie, or those who've seen the movie, you'll understand that there's certain times when you speak out in the truth, or when you shine your light, you shine that light, that you will be exposed. And Darkenman gets into this in the Gospel of Hip Hop as well. I'm covering a lot of ground on here, but it's important to understand this. That when you shine that light in the world, you get exposed to predators or adversaries or demons, and they can see that light. So it's important to know and discern when to shine the light, when not to shine the light, when to be loud and when to be quiet, when to be hard, when to be soft, when to go with the flow, when to stand one's ground. It's important to know that, and really, it's a dangerous world, but it ain't that dangerous. You know, we get a bump and make mistakes a lot in life. God teaches us through an environment. So it almost sounds menacing. I know my tone is menacing because there's a certain seriousness to it, especially in 2022, what we're going into. There's a certain seriousness to be able to navigate through one's environment, especially with what's happening in the world right now. But to really see and separate the false reality from the true reality. The illusion from the truth. Find the truth, find that center being of the truth. And you'll find that center being doesn't have to avoid things to try and make itself feel spiritual. That centered being, the discernment becomes that I don't have to pretend to be positive, so-called positive. I don't have to pretend to be happy, joy, when I'm feeling frustrated and I'm looking at things and I'm like, yo, man, we need some justice right now. You know? So be using that spiritual sight and that discernment through our environment so we don't get caught up in the illusion that's trying to allure us away into a false sense of being, so we give our energy to other things and other people that don't deserve it. This is about finding God and giving God, the ultimate glory and attention and energy. All right, as you can see here, this is from the American Heritage Dictionary, the 3rd edition. Discern, discerning, discerns. Definition number 1, to perceive with the eyes or intellect, to detect. That's the hip hop site at the beginning. Brought this up. Remember at the beginning, I said, just keep in mind that this is a lesson about the hip hop site. To perceive with the eyes or intellect, to detect. Hip means to know. It's a form of awareness. Hip is intelligence. Hop is a form of movement. Hip and hop is intelligent movement. See that intellect right there, to detect? We're talking about our hip. Are we hip to our environment? Do we have discernment in our environment? We're going to see when we see perform overstanding why that's so important. To perceive with the eyes or intellect, to detect. Definition number 2, to recognize or comprehend mentally. See, with discernment, there comes a recognition or a comprehension. You could recognize something and not comprehend it and say, yo, I just recognize something just don't feel right about this situation. I got to bounce. And then later on, you look back and then you comprehend it. Or you might comprehend and go, I need to get out of here. You may not even recognize at that time why you got to get out of that situation or get into that situation. You may comprehend, like I comprehend I got to get out of here, but I don't even recognize why. To recognize or comprehend mentally. Definition number 3, to perceive or recognize as being different or distinct, to distinguish, to perceive differences. Discernible, perceptible as by the faculty of vision or the intellect. That's perception, perceptible. This is the sight. Once again, discernment is part of our hip. It is part of our hip-hop consciousness. This is part of the sight. To be discerning, exhibiting keen insight and good judgment, perceptive. And here we go. Environmental discernment. When we look here, discernment, the act or process of exhibiting keen insight and good judgment. Keenness of insight and judgment. And this to me is why I had a different, I'm just going to use discern as part of the title for this week. It's going to be called Discern Your Environment. But then I realized that this discernment brings the word keen insight and good judgment into the equation. So this is why we want to have discernment. There's a deeper, to be discerning is one thing. To have discernment means you have keen insight and good judgment. And that's what we need in this world. We need keen insight and we need good judgment. We need sound judgment. We don't have a lot of time to keep bumping our heads or bumping or smashing our fingers in the same door. One time, that's enough. And where the collective consciousness and the collective sight comes in is that this is why there are books out there. This is why people are on YouTube teaching. This is why there's all these kind of things that as we're going out into our environment, we actually have these tools that can help us discern and navigate through our environment. And it's very important that we do that. It's very interesting these times that we're living in, because I remember as a kid, and I've said it every week, is, we used to go outside and play like the outdoors was it for us. We'd congregate, we'd run around on our bikes, our skateboards, throwing footballs, frisbees, getting in fights, whatever it was, we had that as kids. We didn't need to be going inside, because it was like Nintendo came out when I was like 13 or 14. Right? We had like an Atari, and you could only play that for an hour and a half until you was just kind of tired of the old Atari 2600. That's how far back. Here we go. That's how far back Minista Zin Uru goes, the Atari 2600. But we played outside all the time. We didn't have video games, computers, and internet and all that. So I believe that was an advantage. I think that life is better that way. I would gladly trade that life for a child any day over this digital one. But I will say this is where it comes in handy, and God willing, we find that balance between technology and civilization. But civilization shall always be over technology. Just because a civilization is technologically advanced doesn't mean they're civilized. We see that all over the world right now. But these kids nowadays, as opposed to when I was a kid and we just went outside and did pretty much everything, or stayed in our rooms and read books and listened to music. With the internet now, you have access to everything. Like if somebody wants to be a cook, they can learn to be a cook online and practice in their kitchen. If somebody wants to, whatever it is that somebody wants to do in life, there's tutorials on the internet. Now, even a brain surgeon, I'm sure there's all kinds of schooling that somebody can go to, like certain parts of the schooling that just require study, doctor degrees, and I'm sure there's the hands-on part, but there's so much that people can learn on the internet. So that is an advantage, right? That is an advantage. So say like if somebody's going into, I don't know. I think back to I had no game with the women when I was young. I didn't have no older, wiser brothers or no older, wiser uncles or men to give me any advice about women growing up. I was just everybody was just like, you're on your own, figure it out. We haven't figured it out. And, so you bump, you scrape your knees and you do this, that, and the other. But like young men now, they can go, online, and there's a lot of bad advice online and there's a lot of good advice online. So how does one discern what's the bad advice and what's the good advice online? Well, hopefully, I'd say if, a young man looking to help themselves in the dating world or whatever, go see Coach Corey Wayne, right? But you can go online and then discern through people online what it is you want to learn about and what you want to know about. But it actually takes some form of discernment, even being online. Like that's the other environment, the environment called the internet. That's its own kind of environment. and going into the virtual environment, using discernment, knowing what knowledge to draw from. And it's just like any other environment. You go out, you get bad vibes from people. I could watch a video and be like, this guy's dropping good knowledge, or even dropping decent knowledge, but I got a bad vibe from this person watching this video. And then I'll go maybe watch another video and then realize why I got a bad vibe about that person. Isn't that interesting? I'm not even in their morphogenetic, they're in the morphogenetic field, but I'm not in the immediate, like you go to the store and you get a bad vibe from somebody, they're like 8 feet away and you're like, oh, I got a bad vibe. You listen to those vibes, they're trying to tell us something. And it's discernment, once again, having faith and listening to one's intuition, one's intuitive abilities. So while we're online, we should have that same, probably more of that discernment, because it seems like when there's danger on the outside world, there's certain things that just key us into it. But on the internet, it's a little bit different, because every kind of sin and vice is available for people on the internet, but also all kinds of knowledge and brilliance. It's like all of hell and all of heaven available on one platform. Just like this, which one do you choose? Can you discern the difference between heaven and hell? Can you discern the difference between right and wrong? Can you discern the difference between good and evil? And be real with it, because this media has been blurring those lines for a long, long time. This system that we live in, they've been blurring the lines of good and evil for a long, long time. Like the Bible say, they will call good evil and evil good. They will call bitterness sweet and sweet bitterness. And that's what we're getting. They will call unhealthy healthy and call healthy unhealthy. They will call truth a lie and a lie a truth. Can you discern the difference between good and evil, truth and a lie, right and wrong? When we're talking about navigation, this is where it's at. When we're talking about discernment, environmental discernment, how are we going to juke in and out, zig and zag, and do what we got to do, fulfill our will, God's will, plan, and purpose for our lives? Or what is our mission in this life? We have to use some discernment. And it's interesting, because we get the discernment, and most of the time in the early stages we get the discerning thought. We say, don't trust that MFer, and we trust that person anyway, and then that person proves to be untrustworthy, and then we say, I should have never trusted him. Something told me not to trust him. I trusted him anyways. Now, God's got lessons. There's a lesson there. There's a lesson there too. You were supposed to do that. You were supposed to trust the untrustworthy person. You were supposed to get the intuitive head that said, don't trust them, and trust them anyways. That was supposed to happen to learn discernment. That's why we learn those. I've learned that same lesson. Don't trust that person. Oh, I'm going to trust that person. I trust them. I'll do my best. And then they reveal to be untrustworthy, and that's, I should have listened to myself. I've been there. It's just part of life. But we get the wisdom. Okay, now next time I get that feeling, I should listen to that feeling and prepare accordingly. Maybe have a backup plan or some kind of safety features built into this arrangement or into this, transaction, into this friendship, whatever it is. We got to use our discernment, and we got to use our discerning side. Like, discernment is a spiritual gift. The side of discernment is such a spiritual gift. And if we can walk through life with actual mentors, which is where, God willing, we will be in the future, where young men and young women have actual mentors that actually know something, that actually have a certain sight, and actually have an ability that's looking out for them. That's why I love, like when I got 21-year-olds and 22-year-olds who's tuning into my message from the Minista every week, this is for you all. Trust and believe this is for you all, because I've been saying this same shit to people the last 15 years who's my age, and they still don't hear it. They're still my friends, they're still my homies, but they don't listen to nothing I got to say most of the time. Yeah, that's just Zin being Zin. That's just Zin being Zin. Yeah, but man, I'm 48 and I'm feeling great. Like, I'm 48, I look and feel great. I feel energized. And I ain't doing nothing that's even required. Like, I have just these day-to-day disciplinary habits that I feel great, and I just feel amazing. And I have my ups and downs like anybody else, but like my center, my homing device, my Polaris, my Polestar is just here. It's in the center. And that's just what it is. But I got friends who's my age, and they don't live in their center. They go waving up and waving down and and having the same questions as 10 years ago. Like that happens in real life. So I've been saying that, guys. I say these same things to them, but to the younger people out there, God willing, you're hearing what I'm saying, and you can put what I'm saying to use. So when you're 32 years old, you've already got your health, love, awareness, and wealth in your mind right, you know? That when you're 30 years old, you already got it. You got yourself together. You got yourself feeling right and seeing right. And not that you hiding from nothing. You embracing life how it presents itself, but you prepared yourself ahead of time for the storms of life as they inevitably are going to come. It rains on the just and the unjust alike. Everybody, no matter who you are going to experience the storms of life. And those who are really worth their salt, and those who are really performing their purpose, and those who are really on the path of light, they're going to go through even harder storms than those who just sit there comfortable in every storm. They just go and they do the same thing day in and day out, and then they eventually die. Okay? You don't want to be that. I'm telling you, there is so much that you can learn to live without when life becomes an adventure. When life becomes an adventure, you don't even hear about half the people I know who are living life as an adventure. They ain't even online. They down in Costa Rica, rapping, you know, running all up and down, like they doing their thing. They travel in the world, even with everything that happened in 2020 and all the restrictions in this. They were still traveling the world because they was hip to their hop, because they was moving around doing things. But they don't get online. Why waste the time online, right? I tell you, when you go out and you live your life to the fullest and you travel or you take care of your family as a real man or woman, and you really into the way that life is, and you have this rich life and this rich environment that takes risks, that is exciting, that's living and is full of some kind of a purpose, you will live a life without regret. And that means you ain't afraid to live. And if you ain't afraid to live, you ain't never going to be afraid to die. I used to like fear life. I used to be afraid to live. And so therefore I was easy to control through the fear of living. I was afraid to die. And it was real like that. I think back to like when I first started touring with the teacher, and we having to park our cars certain ways, and we in certain environments, and we got to get certain hotel rooms, that the way we have to situate ourselves to keep ourselves protected, right? The way we had to situate ourselves, I was like, yo, man, like life is more real when it's like just this present, you know? The split-second decisions got to be made, navigating through those environments, got to use some kind of discernment. And I didn't have the experience to fall back on. I had the experience of the teacher to fall back on. Teacher say, hey, this is A, B, C, and D. But he ain't out there like you get to the city first. He's not there. He's back there waiting for you to get his hotel ready, waiting for you to check in and get the sound system ready, whatever it is. So it's hands-on training. It's hands-on experience. But you're not bringing any experience except for life experience and discernment into new environments. And this is the lesson there, because you're going to go into new environments in your life if you really want to live a life that has some excitement to it. Take some risks. Go try something new. Travel. Do those type things. When we do those type things and we need discernment, we don't even have experience, but we have discernment in those new environments. We may have learned a little thing. We're not going into the environment blind, like we never heard nothing about it before. We don't know what to expect. We have some expectations, but we don't have the experience. But when we have real discernment, then we can discern. Let me talk to that person. Let me park over there. Let me do this. We start seeing that the path has already been laid out for us by God. That's when you start seeing the license plates that have your name on them, or you start seeing signs and billboards that are leading you in directions, and your whole environment begins talking to you. That's the kingdom of heaven, my nobility. That's everything the mainstream is telling you not to do. Mainstream telling you to live in fear all the time. Go see Dune. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death. It just eats away at people's souls, and they're afraid of life. You're going to be afraid of death. You embrace life, you're going to embrace Banga. You're going to embrace life. You're going to embrace all of it. You embrace God. You embrace yourself. You embrace God. Let's read from the Gospel of Hip Hop. Put it up here on the screen. This is perform over standing. Now remember, just to put a reminder up here, we're talking this week specifically about hip-hop as consciousness and using that part of the discernment as hip-hop is our collective consciousness, as our unique insight or spiritual sight as hip-hop. And then that part of hip being the keen awareness, keen intellect. That's the hip. And then the discernment is as we're actually hopping through our environment, the hip is guiding the hop through the environment for those with eyes to see and ears to hear. The discernment is the hip discerning and guiding the hop through the environment, guiding the movement through its environment. Watch here though with perform over standing, and you might want to have a highlighter if you have your Gospel of Hip Hop, or have a pen and paper ready to take some notes on this. Obviously, every week I say, go and read deeper. So if you want to read deeper, get into the H Law, the awareness section, or the seventh sense, or endarkenment. Like, this is a deep lesson. I'm covering a lot of ground, but this is the most important piece right here for this particular lesson. All right, divine performance number 10. Perform over standing. In all things, seek the deeper meaning. Truly seek to know the pain, joy, needs, and wants of those who you may come in contact with. Cultivate your mind to truly understand the situation and circumstances of others. And we talked about this in Perform Intelligence last week. It's very interesting how Perform Listening, the second overstanding, Perform Listening, how succinct Perform Listening is, especially with this first paragraph of Perform Overstanding. Like, it's literally, this is saying to perform listening right here, but this goes a little deeper on the perform listening. It just shows you just a little more depths onto the perform listening. I've realized, over time, and we've realized, but this is something I personally have realized, is that perform listening and perform overstanding are very, they make a nice pair. They really help out, especially when it comes to working with other people, being in relationships with other people, being a son, daughter, brother, husband, wife, whatever it is, minister, employee, employer, whatever that relationship is. That listening and overstanding come in. It's a good way for healthy relationships. I'll read that part again. In all things, seek the deeper meaning. Truly seek to know the pain, joy, needs, and wants of those who you may come into contact with. Cultivate your mind to truly understand the situations and circumstances of others. Even just for a moment, join them in their life experience. Know this: to understand is to comprehend whatever you have been taught. However, to overstand is to experience whatever you have been taught. Such is the essence of wisdom and spiritual leadership. At all times, perform overstanding. Seek to know through experience your own views as well as the views of others. Never settle for simply being educated. Now, right here, my nobility, underline this part, make a highlight. This is so important. For with spiritual overstanding comes discernment, and with discernment comes agreement, resolution, conclusion, and solutions. Look at how important that is. This is what I'm saying. This is where this umbrella I was talking about earlier with discernment comes into. Listen, look at what comes along with your discernment. Agreement, resolution, conclusions, and solutions. We need more agreement amongst one another in truth. We need more resolutions in our lives. We need to come to better conclusions in our lives, and we need better solutions in our lives. Look at what discernment brings. That is a powerful, powerful, powerful word, and a powerful sight to have and to know our discernment. Paragraph 3, while knowledge makes you aware of things, overstanding makes you aware of the character and nature of things. For it is not enough to know whatever you know. You must also experience the things that you know in order to truly know them and correctly apply them. More than just knowing something, it is far better to experience whatever you know. This is the essence of wisdom and true leadership. Overstanding proves the validity of one's acquired knowledge. Know this, just because you have been educated does not mean that your education is truly productive to your real life. And this is it. This is what we're getting at. What is productive for our real life? How does it help you in your day-to-day life? Theories must be tested, and facts change all the time. The true hip-hopper does not just read the gospel of hip-hop. She performs the overstandings of the gospel of hip-hop and proves to herself the value of this gospel in real life. The teacher must know for sure that the gospel of hip-hop truly works in real life before she can even seek to teach it to others. The teacher must be certain of the trueness and authenticity of the gospel of hip-hop. Such certainty is found in the heart. The trueness of this gospel is determined by its compatibility with your heart. Does this path feel right to you? That's discernment, my nobility. You cannot teach this gospel if you are uncertain of its overstandings, if you are still in doubt. Know this, the teacher argues on behalf of the gospel of hip-hop, not for the sake of winning, but for the sake of offering others the possibility of experiencing health, love, awareness, and wealth. He argues only from experience and for the sake of reaching harmonious agreements between parties of conflicting opinions. You must always seek to understand the things that you know, and always seek to experience the overstandings of this gospel. Live by the productive experiences of your life. Learn to repeat the actions of your own success. Learn from your mistakes, as well as from the achievements made by your actions, as well as the actions of others. Discipline is a result of wisdom and overstanding. And I keep saying wisdom is, we learn wisdom from our mistakes. We also learn wisdom from our victories, my nobility, and those things that we did right. You know, we get wisdom from both of them. So let me put that into the conversation like the gospel just did right there. Paragraph number 8. Applied wisdom is overstanding. That right there, applied wisdom is overstanding. You got to apply the wisdom in your life. Or you don't have to apply all the wisdom. Maybe you got wise and be like, I don't even want to go there anymore, do that anymore. I've learned my lesson there. That's overstanding by staying away. Or I got to go do that again. Let me use my wisdom and navigate through this to the right outcome that I wanted all along. Applied wisdom is overstanding. A hip-hopper's wisdom is manifested in that hip-hopper's life. It proves that he truly overstands. More than just talking about what they have experienced, you can see the results of a hip-hopper's wisdom by the effects in and of that hip-hopper's life. My nobility, you can see the effects of joy in my life from my hip-hop lifestyle. And from surrendering to God, I experience a depth of joy in my heart that I hope you can see and feel and hear. Joy is an effect of overstanding. See that, my nobility? Joy is an effect of overstanding. Peace is an effect of overstanding. Mercy, compassion, justice, and patience are also effects of overstanding. However, you can be wise and not experience any of these virtues. Be guided. Wisdom and knowledge are two different things. Now keep that in mind. It's not just the wisdom, it's the performance of the wisdom. It's the living of the wisdom. It's the action of the wisdom. It's the application of the wisdom that brings the effects and creates the overstanding. And then joy is that effect. Peace is the effect of overstanding. Mercy, compassion, justice, patience. These are effects of overstanding. We experience these things once we overstand. Wisdom can be achieved through life experiences, while knowledge can be acquired through educational, intellectual studies. But to overstand is to have experienced them both. To overstand is to act upon what you know and have experienced. Knowledge proves that you know some things. Wisdom proves that you have experienced some things, but understanding proves that you are active in both your knowledge and wisdom of things. For it is the guidance of our God that adds valuable experiences to our knowledge. Such experience creates wisdom. But even the wise are not always motivated to act. They have experience, yet they are not always experiencing. Know this, wisdom is not righteousness. In fact, this is really important too right here. This is so important right here. When it says know this, that's important. Everything's important in the book, but know this. Wisdom is not righteousness. In fact, to be wise, one must go through some very unrighteous situations. One must experience things that can only be experienced in failure, fear, and ignorance. And after one has learned from such fearful and ignorant experiences, one then becomes wise. For when knowledge is backed by experience and the hip-hopper can skillfully apply them both while performing life, that hip-hopper is said to be overstood. For it has been said that the experience gathered from books is of the nature of learning. The experience gained from actual life is of the nature of wisdom. And the small store of the latter is worth vastly more than any stock of the former. That's Samuel Smiles in 1904 saying that in a self-help book. In 1904 just said that. That's a great quote right there. Because it's good to have knowledge, but to have some experience is worth vastly more than just having knowledge that you haven't put to use. And that's what every week these lessons are about, putting it to use in our day-to-day life. There's so many great things that we can learn and things that don't really apply to our day-to-day living. But what applies to your day-to-day living? That's where discernment comes in. You know, discernment when you go to a library or you go to a bookstore, discerning which book is with all these books and all these things, calling, buy me, read me, discerning and having the sight to go in. And this is where the metaphysics is. I mean, the discernment metaphysics, that's where it is. You just feel and know, I'm going to feel into this book. Oh, that book just popped out and spoke to me. My little voice inside told me to grab that book, and I grabbed that book. That book just lit up in a weird way, and I grabbed that book, and then that book is the book you need to have in your life. See, because God is always offering us surprises. God's always bringing situations in our life that we can say yes or no to. And sometimes we got to say no to good situations. I've said no to some good situations so I could perform and follow my purpose in life. I've said no to some good situations, realizing that might have been a form of temptation, but it's also what a loving God giving me an opportunity, in life. And I said, no, I need to keep following my purpose, but thank you for that opportunity to the people who gave me that opportunity. I used my spiritual sight and my spiritual discernment. Now, I've made plenty of mistakes. But all those mistakes have led me to where I am today. And I wouldn't trade who I am and what I've become. I wouldn't trade this guy right here for nothing, for nobody's life. I wouldn't trade my life for nobody's life. I wouldn't trade who I am for any other version of myself, but that I am being right now. I accept this self, and I'm still growing. I got things I need to change, things I want to, grow into. But heaven is a place we grow to, not a place we go to, like Edgar Casey says. Working on a song called Heaven is a Place, based on that Edgar Casey quote. Putting it to use in our day-to-day living, our discernment. Discernment comes great when we bring in friends and relationships into our life, business partners into our life. Discernment comes real important. What to buy, who to buy from. Do I spend a little extra money and get that? Or did I get a better deal on something with an even better product over here, Discernment comes in all shapes, sizes, and forms. It's a very important sight, and I don't know that it's really talked about. We don't really hear about discernment very much in a lot of spiritual circles, which makes me think that a lot of the new agey, floofy spiritual circles don't actually use discernment. Because if they use discernment, they wouldn't be saying a lot of the stuff they're saying. This thing going around all the time, I see people, and it's like, realize that the Barnes & Noble spirituality is to get people to just be comfortable living with oppression. Buddhism is not about, and being Zen, there's nothing Zen or Buddhist about living with oppression. When you read the story and know the story of Siddhartha, Buddha, like Siddhartha was born into riches, when he first saw that there was oppression, he had to become the Buddha to even fathom what that was. Spirituality does not sit, this is the spirituality of the king. He did not sit passively by. This man had enough knowledge, enough resources, and enough wealth, and enough charisma. He could have been very comfortable in any church anywhere. He could have been really good and comfortable and eaten well. But he got out of his comfort zone. He lived the life. He followed his purpose. There was something pressing inside, revealing its truth to this man. He used discernment. He saw what was happening to his people. He saw what was happening in the world. I have to say something. I have a dream. I got to say something. That's what that man is about. That's what hip-hop is about. He didn't just sit there and say, oh, it's all good, everything's good, everything's peaceful, everything is good. Oh, I just think positive thoughts. I just keep thinking all the bad things will go away while all this oppression is going on. That's not spirituality. Nah, that's cowardice. That's some other thing. That's not spirituality. And this hallmark spirituality and a lot of these mega churches, they just turn in a blind eye to injustice and oppression. You show me in the Bible. You show me in the Holy Bible. You show me where Jesus Christ turned a blind eye to oppression. You show me that. And then talk about your spirituality or talk about your form of floofy spirituality that you call spirituality. It's nothing more than vanity. You show me where Jesus said, hey, thou shalt just ignore all the bad stuff going on in the world and don't do anything to help relieve human suffering. True spirituality is about the assistance and help of relieving human suffering. Not about being comfortable and rich. I'm not saying you got to be broke or uncomfortable, but come on. You know what I'm talking about. You see it too. You see it too all the time. People just get real comfortable with that. And then, I remember I hung out in certain groups, certain circles of people, and then 2020 happened and they wasn't prepared because they was living that lie perpetuated by the Barnes & Noble. And there's some good books at Barnes & Noble. I ain't dissing it all. But you got to have the sight and the discernment to see the depth that you can maybe find there. But most of that spiritual books that you go by there, it's just garbage. There's no spirituality there. Because they want to turn a blind eye to oppression and human suffering and then turn it into a religion of me first and God's in service to me. We talked about this last week. No, we're in service to life itself. True spirituality is in service to life itself. So while you're figuring out your purpose, realize your purpose is going to, if you follow in this path that we talk about prescribing the gospel of hip-hop, you're going to realize that when you on that path, like your true discernment, your true spirituality, your true purpose is going to be an assisting to relieve human suffering through your art, through your expression, through a kind word, through your vibration, through your inspiration, through your being, through the truth. You turn your back on the truth and you sleep good at night? I don't know how that happens, I don't know how that happens. I think of any time that the truth, I was like, oh man, I can't even look at that truth. Let me just try and that I would stay awake at night because that truth is like, you got to see me, Zin Uru. Don't hide from me. I'm all that is. You got to look at me now. And I look at the truth and be like, all right, word, truth. Let's stand tall. Let's stand in that. That becomes the foundation. Truth becomes the foundation, then not the lie. Not the lie. John Trudell again, he said, get up every day and say, today I will not enable the lie. Today I will not enable the lie. He's talking about the lie, the great lie. Why? From the father of lies. You think the father of lies? Of course that guy going to be running around saying he's the president of this and that, saying he's the owner of this and that, saying he's the owner of the earth, saying he's the owner of the world, saying he got to take more taxes from you, saying he could shoot you because he got a badge, saying he could steal from you, saying he could just burn cities down, saying he could do whatever he wanted to do to keep you in fear. Now that's the liar. And he's a liar. It takes discernment to know the difference, but once you know the difference, stand in that truth. That's when the overstanding comes in. I can't enable the lie today. I can't enable the lie when I come and speak every week. I can't enable the lie. And boy, isn't that lie huge? Isn't that lie huge? Their lie's coming undone right now. For those, you just see their lie coming undone. In the final hour, many heads will lose power. We're watching major network heads lose. And it's always on these personal things. They're not getting called out for the lies that they've been perpetuating for years and years, especially the mainstream media from 2020 and 2021. They're getting expunged for sexual misconduct or whatever it is. These guys should be getting fired for the lies that they tell. Every one of them can be replaced and should be replaced by you, us, them, or just take that whole system down because we don't need it. That's a fake reality. That's the Matrix. What's the Matrix that the movie's talking about? What is that Matrix? The pharmaceutical company, the educational system, the penal system, the way food is gathered and distributed, the media, and when the media, from the news to Disney to Netflix to YouTube, they have an agenda. Okay, that's the Matrix. This is where the discernment comes in. Can you discern the difference between their lie and God's truth? Can you discern the difference between the lies of the media and the truth of God? John Trudell said, be mindful, be careful. We are in the place where souls get eaten. Don't let your soul get eaten in the environment. Let your soul grow into the strong tree of life that it was born to be. Heaven is a place we grow to, not a place we go to. We are growing towards heaven, and it's going to take some discernment to grow towards the light. It's going to take some discernment to know how to navigate through the craziness of the world to where you're not just surviving, you're thriving. And what's thriving? I'm not talking about finances. That might be a little part of it, but no, joy, peace, charity, patience, all those fruits of the Spirit. That's what we want to navigate ourselves to. That's where we want the discernment from, so we can become a tree that bears good fruit, the joy, the peace, the patience, the understanding. That's the tree we want to become. That's the tree of life. That's another part of the tree of life. Walk around and live a life, and that you're the fruit of your Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience. Whoa, come on now. That's a real life right there, my nobility. It feels good. Especially when somebody you love comes to you and you can impart joy unto them, some wisdom unto them, some help unto them. And people, when they come and they love you and they help you in that same way. Looking out for one another. Community. You feel me? Environmental discernment. That discernment is so important. So as you go forward this week, this month, this year, we're going into a new year. Make 2022 a year of discernment for you. Put discernment first. Start having a discerning eye, a discerning sight. Keen awareness, the discernment said. Keen awareness. What was it? I really like this one. It was keen awareness and good judgment. Having good judgment and keen awareness going into 2022. Isn't 2022 like 2020's perfect vision? 2022 is like beyond perfect vision. Like let's have beyond perfect vision. You know? Let's have that sight going into 2022 that has discernment. I hope that there's been enough lessons learned for people, especially when it comes to the lies of the government from 2021, to really use your spiritual sight and your spiritual discernment and listen to God. Can you see God in your environment? Can you see God in yourself? Can you see God in your life and really see and know? Not the opinions of what God is of other people, but the true and living God. There it is, my nobility. Peace and so much love to you. Your environmental discernment is with you. And there it is. Hey!